Well, when Eric will be asked that about Bob, is Bob going to break his silence? When is he going to break his silence? He said, when your heart cracks open and you begin living from your heart, then in you, his silence has been broken. So that's a beautiful way of looking at it.
Yeah, I love
Or
that.
piecemeal. It's not one big wave. No, no break.
Well, it's not piecemeal for us.
Yeah.
If he breaks his silence in me, then for me, he's broken
Yeah.
his silence. I don't care about anybody else. It's not piecemeal at all. It's
Yeah.
all or nothing.
Yeah. It envelops you. Yeah.
You don't take that personally.
Baba got, way off into sports as well, watching them. And there was one time, I guess, that Don Stevens relates when he was there, and he was in Mandalay Hall with Baba, and periodically Pendu would come in and with real seriousness and whisper something in Baba's ear, and then he would go out, and then after a while he'd come in again, whisper something, and then he'd go out, and it was he didn't know what was being said, but he found out later that Pendu was giving the scores of the cricket match, I think between India and Pakistan, giving him updates.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, today is the Super Bowl game too, so there may be some who,
It's not on yet.
yeah, it's on at 6:30. So if suddenly a quarter of the people disappear,
We'll
we
know.
know.
We'll understand.
So here's a great quote that came in. You know how I was amazed years ago when I read Ramakrishna. He was, a perfect master back in the second half of the 1800s. And he said that in the Kali Yuga, which is what we're in, the winter of the world, only God's name would be of help. And I thought, wow, I was kind of new to Baba, and I mean, Baba's name has, what can I say? Baba's name said inwardly from the heart has been one of my major sources of vitality. But back then, I thought that was a pretty amazing statement. But then here's what Baba said. Baba said, only repetition of my name will suffice to free the whole world from its entanglements. Think about that. Only repetition of my name will suffice to free the whole world from its entanglements. And I know I asked Merwan Jesawala, who really advocated saying Baba's name. I asked him, he said it would, purify your heart. It would protect you from the world, adverse, things from the world. But I said to him, is it a form of service to Baba? And he said yes. So that's one way of serving Baba. When you run out of things to do and you got like some spare moments and you want to serve Baba, just go on saying his name. It's, it is a form of service. And then this quote even substantiates that, to free the whole world from its entanglement. So I thought that was something quite nice. This is Baba. When the tongue is silent, the mind speaks. When the mind is silent, the heart sings. When the heart stops singing, the soul begins to experience its original self.
Again.
I'll read that again. When the tongue is silent, the mind speaks. When the mind is silent, the heart sings. When the heart stops singing, the soul begins to experience its original self. Yeah.
Lord Mayor.
And
It's in Lord Mayor. Thank you.
Now, here's something.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
we thought we could talk it amongst ourselves and get clarity. The original self, I don't think I get
Is
that.
that the soul self?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are so many different names for one thing, which is the soul, God, the higher self, the real self, Baba, infinite God. They're all synonymous to the final destination. It sometimes it has to do with the camera angle that you're seeing this experience. But yeah, I know that's the trouble. It seems like there are so many places that you get to at the end of this, but really it's just one place. And it'll be like, how many angels can dance on the head of a needle? We'll all be there, but we won't take up any space. That's the beautiful thing. Here's another. Well, does anybody have anything that comes up?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I don't mean to distract, but I just almost finished this book, The Nazarene, that you mentioned, that Baba recommended to Erich. I've got about 40 pages left.
Yeah.
And it's just so Baba. I mean, it's just beautiful. Every word of it is astounding. And I just appreciate your mentioning Baba. And how did Baba give him these words, or how did Baba know about the book?
Yeah, Baba knew about the book. See, Erich was when he joined Baba. When he joined Baba, he was actually hoping to devote himself to Jesus. So even when he was with Baba in the early years, he was helping this Baba guy. I mean, I'm being very colloquial, but he was waiting for Jesus. In fact, Baba in the early years used to say to Erich about Erich, see this young boy? See how he serves him, and he doesn't even believe in me. Because Erich would have served anyone that way. He was that kind of person. But anyway, so at one point, this came across into Baba's hands, and he gave it to Erich and said, read this. So I think, because Baba, asked him, I think it's a very authentic biography of Jesus.
It really feels like it, and the environment, the setting, just the setup, it just feels so true.
And way too many details for someone just to be making it up. The premise of this is he relives his life back in those times, and I think he actually did, and wrote it out as this book called The Nazarene.
And it's part of a trilogy. The other two are The Apostle, which I think is about Paul, and then the third one is called Mary, which is about Mother Mary.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah. No, show that book again. This is, if you're got a lot of time on your hands.
It's long. It's 700 pages, but it's just so beautifully written. Every sentence is like a poem. It's just beautiful.
Who wrote it?
Kazantzakis?
Sholem Asch.
No.
Asch.
And this, Mary Magdalene is quite different in this version.
Yes, she plays a big part. Yes.
The true depiction of her rather than as a prostitute. And but yeah, it's something.
I have something to say about that, because I heard that Erich had said that this was, Baba had told him it was the closest book that was to what Jesus' life was actually like.
Oh, okay, that's even better. Yeah.
And it was written by a Jewish person who he took a lot of flack for it, but he had unity in mind.
I think more than that, it was written in Yiddish actually, and then translated.
Oh, really? No, it's.
It seemed to me that that whole first section, Rita, about where he's kind of reincarnated into that time. I think that was him. I think he actually had that experience.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think he relived that time. He was able to access that previous life in vivid detail. And, the one who wrote the Ramayana, Valmiki, he wrote the Ramayana 300 years after the life of Ram. So he also was tapping in to that advent.
Well, isn't at the end there's like a whole gospel, like a whole extra gospel? Rita?
There's two other books. One's called The Apostle and one's
No.
called
I
Mary.
mean the last section.
I've got 40 pages to go.
Oh, okay. But it's my favorite part is the very end because
Yeah,
it's like
it's
a
just-
whole.
Don't tell us the ending.
I won't. Come on, you guys know the ending.
Spoiler alert.
Sorry, Angela, I meant to send that to everybody. Thank you for posting it.
Anyway, I'm glad that this came up. I love that book so much.
Yeah.
I haven't read The Apostles, so I'm gonna
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you
On Kindle.
verified what Baba said to Erich.
Mm.
I have
Amazing.
to do it
Thank you.
generally. Yeah. Well, what do you think? Shall we have a few moments of silence? Jai Baba. So, whoop. So let's see. Here's what I was thinking. Angela and I thought of something. I'm just going to throw it out briefly right now that it might be fun to have a, what can I say, a kind of a breakout group come, anybody that felt like it, come together, and there would be a topic like, how you remember Baba during the course of the day. And, there might be 50 or 60 people, and then they'll go off into these breakout groups. So you'll have maybe 7 people with you, and you can talk about it and discuss it. It might be kind of fun. So we're kind of hatching that. I don't know if that appeals, but that way too, everybody will get a chance to speak and share a little bit more. And even if it went on for 45 minutes or an hour, it could be quite nice. Anyway, so I thought I would give a few thoughts about thoughts. And, especially in the pandemic, when you're not as occupied as you usually are, and that leaves a lot of time up here to be thinking. Most of us are caught up with thoughts from all day long. It's like a ticker tape of thoughts that are going by and before our awareness. and the mindfulness people have researched and found that we have between 50 and 60,000 thoughts a day. And the surprising thing about it is that 90% of them are repetitious, repetition, they're reruns. So, and we spend a lot of time up here in our head, and Baba says you use up a lot of psychic energy up here. In fact, he says one of the biggest drains on psychic energy, our mental vitality, is worry. So, it's something that, something can be done about it. And so this is kind of what I gathered from Darwin. The thing that you need to ask yourself is, what is feeding the thoughts? And, what Darwin would say is that you have to drop down in the heart, its desires, emotions, or feelings are actually the culprits behind, they're feeding the thought, so that's the root cause. And so say, for example, you have to give a public talk. Now that's something that I always felt very uncomfortable about, giving a public talk. And then you're worried about whether you're going to be able to, retain your thread of thought, or whether it's going to be received, whether it's going to be too serious or too you know, whether it's got enough humor, whether it resonates with people. So all this stuff is going on. And so according to Darwin, you know, you go down into the heart. What is feeding all of that? And, you know, in most cases, it's fear. And the fear is down in the heart area somewhere. So you go down, and if you can calm that fear, then you have fewer thoughts happening up here. If you can, or say you get in touch with that fear and hold it deeply enough, and then imagine that it's flowing energetically to Baba. You won't get rid of the fear altogether, but it'll definitely lessen the thoughts. So that's the thing, to go to the root cause and work at it, because all the counter thoughts that you come up with, and you're fighting your mind. Why am I thinking of this? I'm trying to get to sleep and these thoughts are, you know, harassing me. But find out what emotion is feeding it. That's the thing. Well, now here's something that Baba said that I hope that it's understandable, but Baba said, thoughts at work, you know, thoughts at work and feelings at rest is mind. Feelings at work and thoughts at rest is heart. I don't know. I mean, it's a hard thing to ponder. In other words, thoughts at work and feelings at rest is mind. And feelings at work, feelings activated, and thoughts at rest is heart. I mean, so Baba really encouraged, I mean, in his discourses and everything, encourage intensifying the feelings. If you can stay down at the level of the heart and follow your feelings, you reduce a tremendous amount of thoughts. You know, so I mean, big chunks of thought, because you're down there following your feelings. So anyway.
One more time, just the first sentence, Pat.
Okay. Thoughts at work and feelings at rest is mind. Because your consciousness is up here. And feelings at work and thoughts at rest, feelings at work, you're down at the heart level. You're down in the heart center. So anyway, that's it's a hard concept, but it's actually quite simple. You know, speed up the feeling, and you'll get more out of the mind, because the mind is endless. You know, it's funny. I mean, I don't know. I'll give one metaphor that Baba gave me once, which is, if you can imagine you're in your consciousness, and there's this conveyor belt that's going by, and there are all these thoughts that are coming by as these beautifully wrapped presents, and they're going by. So you think, oh, wow, that's a beautiful one. You go over and you take the box and you put it on the table of your consciousness. You tear it open and everything. Hey, there's another box inside. You know, you take that out and you tear off that thing. Wow, there's another box inside that one. You know, I mean, it's basically empty unless there's love. Unless love is motivating it, a lot of them are basically empty. So anyway, that's so.
Gabriella
Anyway.
had a question?
Yeah. Who did?
Oh, I wanted to say that it seems for me personally that feelings, they're already really intense, and they're kind of connected with my mind. I don't really, or maybe you're saying that there's some kinds of feelings or other kinds of feelings, because I'd have to give it to Baba. If I get in touch and intensify my feelings more, I think it's going to cause me troubles unless I give it to Baba.
Yeah. Yeah, ideally giving it to Baba, but even being aware of it, I think it will intensify, even if you don't do anything, because you've isolated it. Instead of, it's not getting all mixed up with thought. You're kind of seeing it in its raw
Isolating
form.
it. Isolated. Yeah.
You're seeing it in its raw form.
Thank you. That's
But
good.
but they're the deeper feelings, which is different from just your emotions. Emotions are excitement based and feelings are tranquil based. But anyway, okay, let's go on. I mean, we got to go on to the book here.
All right, we're on page 44, the section called Come to the Master First.
Someone once asked Meher Baba, should one first get rid of desires and then come to the master? In other words, should we purify the heart and then put our energies into trying to love the master? Baba said, no, come to me first. When we put all of our energies into trying to love the master, that in itself will help us overcome our weaknesses and purify the heart. Doing so creates a centrifugal force, throwing out the false and preventing more of the false from coming in. Our vibrations step up a great deal. Our inner vision is greater and we dare plunge ahead. I think a lot of people, unfortunately, make their weaknesses an obstacle. This is one of the big pitfalls. They say, I'm not deserving of Baba's love. Feeling unworthy, they make that a barrier between themselves and the master. But you cannot wait until you have become pure of heart and have no weaknesses. Baba cautioned us not to make that mistake. In his discourse, True Discipleship, Baba says the disciple should love in spite of his weaknesses and not tarry till he can purify his own heart. In other words, do not inhibit your love because of your failures or your weaknesses. He knows all of our weaknesses and our faults, and his love for us is unconditional. Unbound by orthodoxy or any limitation, he accepts us without judgment. In Meher Baba, we find sanctuary, safety, and security. Try to be aware of his love for you as an individual. His disposition towards us is that of unbroken, sweet, loving care all the time. His true nature is not subject to anger or vindictiveness. The apparent cycle of push-pull that we experience with him as he operates on our sanskaras is necessary. Try to get closer to him each time.
Beautiful. Anyone have any comments there or anything? Well, I'm just curious. How many people, raise your hand, how many people have to deal with the feeling of unworthiness with Bob? I mean, it is, and Darwin would knock that out of you. You know what I mean? He was so good about, encouraging you. Don't let your shortcomings make you feel that Baba, that he doesn't love you unconditionally. I mean, because that's a very common trait that we all had. And when we were young, we were having difficulties, especially. So he was very, I mean, you kind of felt that coming from him.
Yeah, he was always telling us that was not the way we should think.
Yeah. And yeah. And I'm sure, Bill, you heard that in various ways because people would bring it up with him.
Yeah, I keep thinking about Erwin Luck's talk yesterday from Australia. A lot of little tidbits in there that really intrigued me. One of the things he said was, Baba was such a nice guy. He was really a lot of fun to hang out with. And I kind of loved that idea. It really gave me that feeling, or it seemed like Erwin was trying to get across that feeling to everyone that, Baba's your friend. He's not just your master, he's your friend too. And keeping his companionship in a friendly way like that can be helpful. That's what I took from it anyway.
Yeah, that was something about Erwin. He didn't have a problem with unworthiness. you know, because I mean, he just, he just kind of was himself in front of Baba with, how he was. And I noticed that early back in the late 60s. He just didn't have that thing that a lot of people have. You know, he made his mistakes, but he knew that Baba, he had enough experience of Baba to know that Baba didn't hold it against him or think less of him, whatever. Yeah.
Elizabeth Robinson.
Yeah, so one thing that always, sorry, trying to get rid of this. Okay. One thing that has bothered me for a long time, and I kind of understand it, but I also don't, is this sentence, his true nature is not subject to anger or vindictiveness. But there are many, many stories where Baba lashes out, throws people down the stairs and all of that. So how does that jive with the sweetness part?
You know, I think I've mentioned that here on the Effort and Grace, but maybe not. Just to answer that specifically, when we came to India in the early 70s, we were kind of, among other things, you could ask Adi and the Mandalay almost any question. We asked them, well, what was Baba doing? Losing his temper and throwing you down the stairs and slapping people in those early years. And, you know, we had a hard time reconciling that with an all-loving Baba's unconditional love. And Adi said that when Baba got into temper, when he was in that mood, they would actually, as young men, they were 18 and 19, 20, they would move forward and try to get in the line of Baba's anger, because when he hit them, it was so purifying. They felt such a purifying effect that they would actually move their chest forward and try to get in the line of fire. We were very surprised at that. But you know, the way I've kind of felt about it is that the anger is actually in them, and he's mirroring it back to them. Baba said, "I'm never angry," you know, and Pendu, his cousin, said, "What do you mean, Baba? We see you getting angry and losing your temper." He said, "No, I'm just mirroring back what is in you," especially in those early years, because he had a lot of raw recruits. So I don't know if that answers you, Elizabeth, but that's what we got from Adi.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Cindy.
I really like this line that when Darwin says, when we put all of our energies into trying to love the master, that in itself will help us overcome our weaknesses and purify the heart. Doing so creates a centrifugal force, throwing out the false and preventing more of the false from coming in. Our vibrations step up a great deal. Our inner vision is greater, and we dare to plunge ahead. And being someone that interfaces with the world, you know, I'm very interested in vibration, vibrational level, the energy fields that emanate from the different parts of our body and our energy structure. And I just think that is so beautiful. Like in so many different modalities of healing, there's so many rules and constructs of how to get from A to enlightenment. And I've studied a lot of those. And I just love, like, it's like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. You just need to click your heels 3 times, Dorothy, and say there's no place like home. Because loving Baba is like that. And I can see when reading that, like the effect on the energy structure and the natural boundaries when your energetic fields is just radiant, that the dark spots or whatever can't get in from others, the attachments, and it clears you out your own attachments. And then you can see more clearly what we are, not just the who. And then we dare to plunge ahead, which makes me think about that quote from Baba about stake everything on God, where we take a daring dive into the eternal now, where the solutions to all our problems exist. And I find more recently that what I'm working with is my resistance to receiving everything that Baba has to offer, and to let go of the old painful ways of being, and just don't worry, be happy in his love. He's helping. But from the eternal now, that dare to plunge in and live from that, no matter what's happening in the fleeting now. I think that's beautiful.
Beautifully said, Cindy. Yeah. Later on, he gets into creating a basically kind of a force field, an invisible current that's strong, and it can nothing kind of can get in and bring it down. You have a strong enough inner current that, or like a centrifugal force, but there's also kind of that keeps things at bay that are not healthy. But that comes later in the book.
Which could be things like coronavirus. Like, I don't need to vibrate at that level. Like, not that I'm better or worse, but I've really thought about that. Is like, what about our immune system as an energetic structure, you know, it mirroring everything, just to even contemplate that from a physical level as well, with viruses, bacteria.
Yeah, that's the area. The weakness comes in through there, through the chest, you might say.
Rosalie?
There's a couple of lines I love of Baba to Narina that seem like what we're talking about. Do not waste your time in thanking the great ones of the past or of the present. Go ahead in your spiritual adventure while your heart is pure and strong. I know when I first came upon that line, I thought, well, my heart's not pure. And then I thought, no, if Baba says you and I are not we but one, my heart is pure. I have to, it's like remembering it and experiencing it. So that line brought great meaning. It says, go ahead, It's kind of like take a chance, life is like a chance, take a chance, And I think part of it is where I was born into a family where I was so unlike my family. So it was, you kind of had to watch your every move to try to fit in, And now Baba's kind of releasing me from that type of thing, the extreme caution. And it is a spiritual adventure. Go ahead.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. So, the doorway to the infinite, right?
Yes, looks like we can.
That was a phrase that Darwin used quite frequently. Baba is the doorway to the infinite. It was very powerful.
Love Baba in any way you can. He is the doorway to the infinite. Baba says, if you love me at your level, I will take you to mine. This is the whole secret. By loving him personally, we come to see him in an unlimited sense. I think that everyone who has come close to Baba spiritually also experiences him in the most personal sense with regard to his physical form. His form itself becomes a doorway to the infinite, but incidentally, en route, we experience the beauty of his form because he is, after all, the personalized divine beloved, the one we can really love, really adore. So just love him. Feel that he is part of your consciousness. Make him your spiritual path, your disciple or way, instead of some mechanical exercise or program. Meher Baba says of himself, I know the way and its labyrinths, for I am the way, I am the goal. Thus, we are able to enjoy the company of the divine beloved and participate in the goal to some extent if we tune into him with love. When we were around Baba, sometimes this actually happened to us temporarily, with us temporarily. His consciousness was so dominant, both in presence of individuals and among throngs of people, that at times one would be swept into his state of consciousness and would experience some of the unlimited freedom and beauty and the sweetness of God.
Wow. What do you think he means when he says to feel Baba as part of your consciousness? Feel that he is part of your consciousness.
What, Jeff, when you were talking about being around Darwin as being like, like you had to go out and eat afterward to kind of bring yourself back to, and so that's how I relate to it, because, you know, because I know you and you knew Darwin, and then Darwin knew Baba. So when he's saying that, you know, being around Baba, everybody would feel that consciousness raising. That's how I can relate to it, you know, because, and I know I feel it on the center actually. And I felt it at Baba meetings, live Baba meetings. I mean, of course I feel it here too, but I've left and I remember sometimes saying, oh, Gil and Chitra are so wonderful. And Terri would say, well, it's probably Baba you're feeling, you know, like, in love with all these people, you know, and it was like, because the energy was so high, you know, and, you know, oh, they're so wonderful and they're so wonderful. And you feel that at the center, like it's the love is so palpable, you know, and the gatherings of Baba people, you know, I felt it at the New Year's service, and, you know, whenever we're together, that love energy is contagious, you know, it's like we're, you know, talking about Baba, telling Baba stories. It lifts all of us, you know, but I can imagine how pure it was with Baba, you know, I mean, that's the source, right? So it, whew, and I even feel, so sometimes we've watched, Gil and Chitra have Irwin's movies. So we've watched a lot of those movies, and I feel the transmission is actually even strong when like Mani's speaking and Erich is speaking. That energy still, it's weird. It's like, it's not like I'm watching an old movie. It's like that transmission is coming through the film too. So anyway, I wanted to share that.
Yeah, beautiful. And that's we're sharing in Baba's consciousness by that. And it's not a thing of the past. That was one thing that Darwin emphasized. Baba's not, don't get just into him being historical. I mean, that's nice, but he's here now and, you know, alive and everything, and we're imbibing that presence.
Rosalie?
Some of my, for a couple of months, maybe more, 3-4 months now, something I came across in Baba speaking to Narina, especially in this Corona time. It says, see me live in you in small ways of life, the everyday ritual of selfless harmony. And it's like our lives are reduced with our contact with other people, but we have to have that selfless harmony with our real self, which is our life, however little it is. I mean, it's like that precious life, because it's the life. Yeah. Anyway, so I think the kind of the unavailability because of the situation of having to be, I live alone, but it's even more than that, you know, I don't really go out, you know, and I mean, I go outside, but so it's the force of what else could I be doing but getting to know myself. What better thing to do, because I'm all alone with myself, you know. Anyway, see me live in you in small ways of life. Yeah, Jai Baba.
Yeah, Jai Baba. Yeah.
Nice. Dyan?
So, hi, everybody. Happy Sunday.
Yeah.
I asked Erwin a question. He was on the Australian Sahabas last night. Hold on for a second. Let me just hang that up. I should have started just talking Baba to the spam person. I asked him, because I've wondered how people who have actually met Baba and how they felt knowing Baba and having exchanges, and then how they felt after he dropped his body, if there was any difference in feeling. And I said, because I've heard that when he dropped his body, the thinking was that he actually came closer to everybody because he now was infinitely everywhere. He wasn't just this person in India. And Erwin said we were the lucky ones in lots of ways because he did come in with that kind of strongness. I think that some people, and I don't know if I'm reading this right, some people got confused with his form and stuck on his form and listening to him and waiting for his feedback. And then when he left, actually Nashwan, I'm going to contradict myself because Nashwan today talked about that his first thought was, what am I going to do now that he's gone? And after he went to the Samadhi, that feeling totally left him.
Yeah, that's, and look at what Nashwan has done in all the ensuing years. He didn't have to, didn't require any direct emails from Baba. He just took off.
Yeah, that's for sure. And Larry?
Hi, everybody. Good to see you.
Yeah.
I missed this group. I wasn't here last week for all of it. What I like here on page 44 is the very beginning. Love Baba in any way that you can. He is the doorway to the infinite. Baba says, if you love me at your level, I will take you to mine. And I remember when I first went to India the first time, which is when I had my first, in quotes, conversion experience to Meher Baba, which was in February of 1984. I had at that time I was a Christian at the time, a very strict Christian at the time. So this was definitely a total, total experience for me. And I took the train after I was in India, in Ahmednagar. I took the train to, I had to go to Delhi. And I booked a sleeping car, and of all things, I got in with this Indian family, but the people had asked me where I was coming from, where I was going. And of course, I was just filled with Baba, and I told them, everything about what I experienced. And they thought I was totally crazy. And they said, there's a lot of Babas in this country. And we're just amazed at the Westerners who come here and meet all these Babas and give them all their money and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, I felt like crap after I heard that sermon for a couple hours from these people. And so I thought, wow, maybe I have been, taken or something. Anyway, I had a book with me. Somebody gave me a Baba book, and I opened it on the train after this encounter, and it said, it is very, Baba wrote, these are not his exact words, he said, it is very difficult sometimes for somebody who is a Christian to accept me as the avatar of the age. In such a case, Baba said, that person should just consider me his best friend. And I thought, that's it. You are my best friend. I'm not even going to deal with this psychologically. You're my best friend. And you know what? From there, Baba lifted me up, in my true realization and experience of him as being the Christ. It was kind of like the second dose. It was wonderful. And I just want to point out that as a minister with a church and stuff, I meet with a lot of different spiritual groups during the week, even from different kinds of religions. There's different viewpoints. I'm like Zoom every week. And I have to say that this group, out of, when I know fundamental Christians, for example, and I know Buddhists and everything, this group, the Meher Baba community, you people, and I'll include myself in it, we are really in touch with the consciousness of Meher Baba. You have no idea how you outshine every other spiritual group with this. I mean, people don't in other spiritual circles sit around on a Sunday and talk about what Baba has revealed to them in their everyday lives during the week. Everybody else is reading prayers and playing with hymnals. And we all, in my opinion, have wonderful relationships with Baba. And we do share the one mind with him. So when you walk around, just realize that. That's all I have to say. I'm always, after I preach on a Sunday morning, I get a little preachy, so you have to forgive me.
Amen. That's
Hey,
beautiful.
Baba, thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, that's great. Elizabeth Robinson?
Yes, I was focusing on that, addressing what Jeff said, feel that he is part of your consciousness. Make him your spiritual path, your discipline or way, instead of some mechanical exercise or program. So that's what hit me, that whatever the relationship is, it's not the mechanical reciting of prayers or whatever it is, but it's more like a natural flowing part. And I think probably the remembering of the name and bringing Baba into situations, whether positive or negative, is part of including that in your consciousness. So if something happens, whether it's a feeling you don't like or an interaction that isn't working or something that is, being able to consider that. And it's been especially helpful to me in Effort and Grace to think of sanskaras coming up from the subconscious so that we can deal with them, because it gives you a different way of looking at those clashes, conflicts, whatever it is that you're dealing with. And then the resolution becomes different.
Yeah, beautiful. Like you say, as our consciousness becomes more inclusive, it starts to partake of Baba's consciousness. As we move toward oneness, we are tapping in to his consciousness. So that's a beautiful thing, and a work in progress.
Paula?
Yeah, this is short. I've thought about this a lot because one of my best friends is a Pentecostal pastor. And the difference that I feel, even in the music, is that intimacy. We have an intimacy with Baba. We have an intimacy with the Christ that I don't feel anywhere else. And so.
Yeah, we are very, very fortunate. Yeah. Okay. I was just saying that Baba, defining Baba is real, and the whole spiritual path is made up of spiritual impressions, and Baba is impressionless. So as we focus on Baba, we are imbibing the real. Little bit by little bit, we are touching base with something that's beyond impressions. It's the state of being. So that Dyan was talking about a doorway to the infinite. The spiritual path isn't the direct doorway to the infinite. It's Baba's Baba's form, and anything connected with Baba is, we keep touching base with the real, and that is dissolving impressions right and left. Anyway, that was that. I mean, Darwin used to say Baba is impressionless being. His being is impressionless. So if you want to get beyond impressions, that's the doorway. Okay.
Cliff, you care to read?
Yeah. Cultivate companionship. Inwardly, we have to believe in the highest possibilities. Negative thoughts mean that we are being hoodwinked by Maya. It all boils down to working with Baba within, developing a sense of his companionship and drawing closer and closer to him. This changes the tendencies of one's mind and heart. Drawing closer to Baba at the level of the heart by awakening inner feelings for him is what our effort is all about. We can do many things to help cultivate companionship with him. I think as we come to learn more about how he lived his physical life, which involved almost constant suffering for humanity, and how he has paid the price, so to speak, for our spiritual liberation, we will perhaps develop more feelings about him and a way of loving him. We can also comply with his inner instructions, tune into his presence, and try to control what we think and believe as ways of drawing closer to him. Even writing letters to him that will never reach him in the physical can be helpful. I recall once receiving from Baba a reply to a letter that I had written to him. He said in his reply, "Your letter brought you closer to me." In writing, we are pouring out our hearts. We are thinking of him, trying to reach him inwardly, trying to make that contact within, and trying to fathom his significance. Our thought has to be used in the process. It sounds like an impossible thing, but my experience is that we can be aware of him the more we think of him. We can learn to feel his presence. Let me say that again. It sounds like an impossible thing, but my experience is that we can be aware of him the more we think of him. We can learn to feel his presence. When I was at my job, I had to try to keep my heart going, keep my feelings, my heart center awake and active, feeling Baba's presence, even though my mind had to be occupied elsewhere. Of course, I was not always successful in remembering Baba through the heart center, but it is not something that you blame yourself for if you cannot do it. You just work at it. We are all taking up any kind of sport or skill. When you are taking up any kind of sport or skill, you are not likely to be top rate to begin with. You have to work at it. If you begin to experience Baba's presence, you will discover that it's not painful and unhappy work. It is a pleasant, happy, and blissful experience. In fact, you can experience happiness all the time by doing this work.
And for me, I like what this simple and natural, what Eric said, because Baba loved him as a companion, favored him. Life is a joy with him. Without him, it is not. Joy is living with him. This is a new life. You're living from the heart, not the mind. He is the deeper self. There is no one to love except yourself. The self is God. Love yourself more and more. This is your inner being.
Yeah, those are Erich's words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So perfect. Yeah.
And Tina?
Yeah, I was thinking about this sentence, negative thoughts mean we are being hoodwinked by Maya. Well, that's a challenge for me in this pandemic with a broken leg and being all by myself here. And, I just don't really feel Baba a lot.
Yeah.
And when I do, I feel like angry.
Yeah, I mean, you feel, expand on that a little bit.
What do you want to know?
I mean, you say you're not feeling Baba,
No.
but you have the negative thoughts that are going by.
Yeah, and I don't know what to do because I kind of feel like it's the end of the world. And I'm just waiting for the Grim Reaper to come and take me.
Well, when I began this, it said like, how to deal with thoughts. Where do you think those thoughts are coming from?
I don't really know. I think from the circumstances of the world. I mean, it's bad out there.
But I mean, where are they coming inside of you?
I don't know. I'm not really sure the answer to that.
Yeah. That was kind of what Darwin was saying. Go down. They're being fed by the emotions somewhere, and if you can track that down, it helps. So that you're not just stuck with the thoughts, but you're kind of going the root cause. But that's Darwin used to say, you don't just sit down and you start playing the piano. You have to go da 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 da, and then you get chords and you start to play a melody. I mean, it's all very, as Eric said, it's all very, 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 very gradual. So
I don't even really feel that motivated to even try.
Well, we'll see if we can inspire.
Oh, thank you, Jeff.
Inspire you. You're singing, but look at you sing and you share regularly, and it's that you may not know where that's coming from because we're receiving the joy of your singing. All that. You might just be what can I say? Effaced from knowing.
Well, I'm glad I'm inspiring people, but I myself, I'm just waiting for the end.
Well, we're gonna try to give you the beginning.
Thank you.
Yeah. But
Tina, J. Baba, you're a lot stronger than you think you are. Actually, if you don't mind me saying so, you're a powerhouse, and I'm not just making that up. You're a lot stronger than you think you are. I've observed you. I've experienced your beautiful singing. I've experienced your divine intensity. You are a lot stronger than you think you are, and that's the God's honest truth.
Yep, I agree.
I'm not enjoying the pandemic at all.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people are, but let's just tell the truth.
Well, there's a lot of depression in this country. People suffering from depression. Yeah, to be expected.
Okay. Well, if it's any consolation, Tina, I've had several broken bones over the years. One was taking out a huge watermelon rind and having a metal trash can clamp on my index finger and broke the bone and ruined the tendon. And I had to keep it still for 12 weeks. And I was pissed and I was hurt. I was depressed. And I was cursing at my husband because I did too many things for him that he should have done and all that. And then I realized in that when I was quiet and having to go through the ritual of taking care of this finger and washing it by keeping it straight for 12 weeks. I had to wash it, take off the splint, put it back on. I realized it was a wax on, wax off situation. And I thought, I better be with this in consciousness because I'm getting lifted. And I hope I can be aware of how I'm getting lifted. And I got a letter from a friend of mine, Sufi friend I've been writing to for about 50 years. And he says to me in the letter, you know, in some esoteric circles, they say when you break bones, you're releasing scars that are so difficult to release that it's almost like you have to be forced to break a bone in order for God to release it. And I went, bing. I said, okay, so I have to start changing this around. And today, as I, look at things, I know a lot about vibrational medicine, little tricks, and I play music, and yours is so beautiful, Tina. And the other day I was playing Open Up the Door by Buzz Connor, and I, over and over again, I couldn't stop playing. And I felt like a little kid, the consciousness that Baba, how do you know that you're in Baba's consciousness or Baba's part of yours? Well, it's different for everybody, I think. But for me, it's like I turn into this 3-year-old, but I'm aware of what's going on. I'm an adult, but I'm really enjoying the 3-year-old kind of state with Baba, and I'm playing it over and over and over again. And I wasn't aware, I didn't really care, who was around. And my husband finally, after like the 50th time, he looks up at the sky and he says, would you open the damn door already, Baba? Just open the damn door. And I just laughed hysterically. And I realized that, all the sore spots and all the things we go through are to raise us up. And yesterday I watched an interview, an old interview with Cicely Tyson, who recently passed away. And she was so in tune with the infinite in this interview. It always has. And she said something interesting. She said that anything that was bad that happened to her, she never felt bad about it. And she always saw it as a strength because she was raised up from it. That's exactly what she said. So we're here for you, Tina, and for everybody. And just hang in there. But, Open Up the Door lifted me up, playing it over and over again.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Heidi.
Tina, so, it really, it's I'm sorry that you're suffering, but I'm really glad the way you expressed it, because it was so straight ahead. And I just want you to know that I really feel for what you're going through, and especially that you're living in town like that. And it's so hard, So sending you a lot of love. And I know one thing that helps me, I'm a fellow Cancerian like you are, and I can be somewhat moody and have my better days and not, happier days. And that just getting outside and trying to just change my perspective and have little exercises in different ways of kind of, getting a different viewpoint helps me. So I don't know if that helps you, but sending you love, Jai Baba.
Yeah.
Tina, from my own experience, and that's all I can say, when you ask, what do I do? Well, what was transformative for me back in 1983 in early spring was one afternoon I sat down in a chair and looked at Baba's photo, and I just dumped everything out loud. I got angry, I cried, I did all those things. And the next, I was so tired, I was worn out, that I had eliminated from my heart what I felt about who I was in relationship to him and what I was doing, which is really nothing at that time. And he responded. And I've always felt that if you talk to Bob out loud, he will respond. As long as whatever it is, it comes from your heart. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, thank you, Jack. I think everybody's done a little bit of that.
Yeah, I just want to echo some of what everybody else has said. I appreciate so much your honesty and being straightforward, and it's hard to be vulnerable. And I too feel that sense of isolation because I also live by myself, and it is extremely hard to keep going on and on. And I imagine it's even worse having a problem with your legs, so that makes it even more difficult to get outside. And the second part is whether you think you feel Baba or not, or whatever you think, Baba in you is coming out in spades. I mean, the Goat Herd song, the compositions you've done, the Way to Make Us Laugh, Typhoid Mary. I mean, I could just go on and on. Every day, Baba is shining through you in spite of what you think is going on. So I just want to affirm you, and you've made me fall in love with you as a human being. So I just want you to say how appreciative I am of you and your talents and your dedication to Baba. So anyway, I hope you feel better. Jai Baba.
Kitty was asked, do you feel Baba? She says, oh, no, I haven't felt Baba in years. This is Kitty. Hadn't felt Baba in years. But Baba did say to Arnavas, I didn't ask you to feel me, I asked you to love me. So very, I didn't ask you to feel me, I asked you to love me. And, as long as you're trying and you're singing, you're sharing, you're doing the loving part of it. Yeah.
And Paula.
Okay, this is in the family letters, and I love it so much I have it marked because I like to go back to it, because sometimes everything sucks. So, or it seems to. To another, Baba said, it is natural that at times you feel 100% miserable. Be sure that I know everything. When everything goes wrong, the mind becomes helpless and has to rely on the heart. These are the moments when you resign to my will and rely solely on my help. When you leave all to me, I dare not neglect you, and you can get relief from your predicament. I am the ocean of love and compassion. I love that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's okay to be absolutely positively miserable. And then I think with experience too, we realize that eventually it passes. It doesn't stick forever. And it's really hard, especially with broken bones and being isolated and stuff. It's tough. But I also wonder something else, vibrationally and everything. I wonder what Baba might be doing through you with other people that are lonely and by themselves and feeling sick or whatever it is they're going through. I wonder what kind of work perhaps Baba might be doing through you. Anyway, that's what I think. Jai Baba.
Yeah, wonderful, Paula. That's a great quote. I think we've got Bill Cliff there.
Oh, yes. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, Tina, I'm sitting here with my left leg up on two pillows. I was out walking the other day and on the edge of a pond, and all of a sudden my right leg went in about 2.5 feet, and I had to lean very heavily on the left leg to get myself out. And all of a sudden I've got a very, very twisted knee. So I am immobilized. So in a little way, I know how you feel, but during this pandemic, two things have helped me very much. One has been to laugh. We all need to laugh. So I've been tuning in on YouTube some of my old favorite TV shows from the 60s and 50s, including, and I recommend this to everyone, Car 54, Where Are You? And the Jack Benny Show. Amos and Andy, George Burns, and I would watch a half hour, just a half hour, because I wanted to look, because they're all on YouTube, and it's just to laugh for a half hour every evening at simple humor, none of the sophisticated stuff that passes for humor these days, but just very simple humor is just wonderful. And I find if I get that, if that comes up on my YouTube screen, they start sending me other stuff too that's similar. Second thing, Gene and Darwin used to get this wonderful little monthly magazine from Unity Church called The Daily Word. Gene loved it, and it's got a positive thought every day that you can really program into your consciousness. And I do that. About 4 years ago, I got the strongest inner prompting, Bill, you need this. And I think it makes one, if one reads these every day, and sometime I'll read 10 or 15 of them previous days, it's made me really proactive in developing really strong, positive inner attitudes that are going to fend off any of the negativity, inwardly or outwardly, that we're facing these days. So I want to recommend the Daily Word. It's matchless. And it's 95% Baba. So many times they talk about going into the silence, living in the silence, affirming our oneness with God. It's an amazing, amazing little magazine.
Yeah.
So that's all I can
Beautiful.
suggest.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And Larry.
Yes, and sometimes I just get mad at Baba. I just kind of like have it out with him. And I tell him what I'm thinking, and I express my disgust or whatever. And it's a wonderful spiritual experience to do that sometimes. It's like I'm having a real relationship with you. And sometimes, Baba and I don't talk for a couple days. And we always get back together, and it happens very quickly. And it's a good experience. I understand him better, and I understand myself better. And so that's another thing you can do. Have an honest talk with Mayor Baba and say, listen, we're going to have coffee and we're going to talk about this situation. And I'm sure Jeff has had that kind of experience in his life.
Definitely. What was Mark Twain said, sometimes profanity gives as much relief as prayer.
That's great. And Ruth.
Jai Baba. Well, I just want to say this. There is a thing called dark night of the soul. I think that it's real. I know that I've experienced it. And I don't want to minimize that as we process through our things, there are times where we have great difficulty. And that's just the spiritual journey for me. Now, you all might have a completely different journey, but that's mine. I'll have some very hard, rough patches. And one time I heard Charles give this talk about his Baba. And he was talking about how he reached a point in his life where his Baba kind of crumbled and disappeared. And he realized that what he had done was he had created in his mind his image of Meher Baba. And it being an image was so not infinite. It was his finite image, and that had to crumble. And after it did, there was a period, and maybe this is the dark night of the soul for some of us, where you feel a disconnection. You can't find Baba. You're reaching everywhere, and you just can't find him. And then all of a sudden, it's like a little seedling pops up, and you recognize it, and you realize it's him. And it's the beginning of a new Baba in my heart. That's the way it is. When Kitty died, I realized that her Baba was my Baba, or my Baba was her Baba. So there is, I think, an importance to recognize that we all can have these times where it's very, very hard. and just say, yes, that's true, it is. And just look for the seedlings, you know? I mean, even in depression, if I acknowledge I feel depressed, the next thing I know is I can feel a little bit of light getting in. It's where the crack and everything, where the light gets in. So even in the darkness, there's going to be a crack. Well, I don't even know if that was some kind of a crack, but anyway, I'm out. Thank you.
Thanks. Beautiful, Ruthie.
Yeah. And Elizabeth.
Yes, I was actually just typing this into the chat. So today on Being with Krista Tippett, the discussion was about Rilke's Dark Night of the Soul and depression. And she spoke with 3 different spiritual teachers, from different traditions, but it was quite interesting. And one of them was saying that in order to, the darkness is just the other side of the lightness, which actually is what Baba talks about a lot, that the two, and when you start reading about Maya, I mean, Maya has to exist so that Baba discovers his own self. So anyway, I think it's part of our own discovering our own self, meaning our Baba's self, meaning Baba. So anyway, I just thought I'd pass that on, and I'll finish typing it into the chat in case anyone wants to listen to that edition on National Public Radio of Krista Tippett's On Being.
Yeah, very good program.
And Rosalie?
Tina, you have the tool right at hand. What I recommend is the goat herd job. Record it on your tape recorder or whatever, and set a timer, maybe at first every 20 minutes, play the goat herd job. And I think it'll help. I mean, I'm very into repeating Baba's name, and that is very funny also. So you combine humor with getting you out of that depression, because, I know depression. Fortunately, I'm not experiencing that at the moment. But it's like you want things to end because it feels like nothing's happening, just like suffering, nothing but suffering. So anyway, if I were you, I'd use that goat herd because that is so funny and it's so full of Baba. Baba, 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 Baba. Jai Baba. Advice from an old friend and fellow actress.
Yeah. Angela, do you think we have time for one last section here?
Ooh, 15 minutes. Well, we could read it.
Which one?
The Master's Help.
The Master's Help.
46.
Yeah. Jai Baba, the Master's Help. Mayor Baba loves us and wants to sustain us and share his consciousness with us. He wants to share the kingdom of God with us. It is always open. He wants to be our constant companion, and he will, if we allow him. I feel that he is even more accessible now than he is without his physical body. The more we can stay in his company inwardly, the more we are exposed to that divinely pure consciousness, and the more we will become free of the attractions that are really our weaknesses. To counteract our addiction to Maya, the Master imparts truth and dissolves the false by revealing himself inwardly. His truth supersedes any other value we are holding on to. As we make inward efforts to love him, he helps in his own way. A growing acceptance of the Master's intervention leads to increasing intimacy with him, and we feel impelled to want to clean up
to clear up the heart. Through this intimacy with the Master, we become in some measure a part of his consciousness. In other words, he takes us to his level when we identify ourselves with the infinite, the soul level of our being, which the Master represents. This is not something that we can imagine. The Master's love, which is given freely and internally, dissolves all sanskaras and cancels our addiction to Maya. Therefore, we must learn not to identify with our lower selves. We must maintain the attitude and the visualization of the goal or reality as already achieved. We must remain established in the freedom and the positive attitudes of truth realized.
I wanted to ask one thing is, in that second sentence, no, I guess it's the fourth sentence. He wants to be our constant companion, and he will if we allow him. So what is it in us that might resist allowing him? That's the, why don't we have him right there, right in our very body, you might say, right here with us? What is that? What is the resistance in us?
Dyan?
So it's kind of interesting that I was just talking about the difference of feeling of Baba's power before when he was in his body and then after, and then Darwin addresses it here. But this is another comment to Tina, because I think it takes a village and someone's incredible vulnerability to speak the way you did. But in 12-step programs, there's a saying, act as if. And I find it very, very useful. And when you can't find God, it's act as if you can. And then pretty soon you'll catch up with yourself. I mean, everything everybody is saying has been so personal because they know so much about you that they're, Rosalie's comment everybody's comment just feed back what you give us on RT. And then open up the door. That one really rang with me. But when people bring out their vulnerability and people jump in to help, it helps us all. And
so thank you.
So thank you to everybody. This is the intersection of spirituality and therapy, and I'm happy to be at this intersection.
Thank you, Tina.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing there is that what you said at the end there said, maintain the attitude and visualization of the goal or reality as if already achieved. So that's one of the steps in the 12-step program.
Reminds me of a story that Erich tells, but we can come back to that. Larry?
Yeah.
Oh, I just want to say, Jeff, that I think how Baba becomes our constant companion is answered by that last paragraph. We must learn not to identify with our lower self. And we must maintain the attitude and the visualization of the goal or reality as already achieved. I think that's the whole secret.
Yeah.
That if you do that, then Baba becomes your constant companion, because there's no other way for us to do that without Mayor Baba becoming our constant companion. So it's like back and forth. And I think, I don't know, being into the science of mind, that's one of the 12 steps right there. I try to be as positive as I can, with every situation. And I don't look at myself during the day as a sinner or somebody desperate. but I just remind myself continually, I am Mayor Baba is using this body and is using me right now. It's all Mayor Baba. And that's like, you know, it's amazing. And I can see him doing it. You know, somebody came to me with a problem the other day. I just gave this woman such simple advice, you know, in the name of Baba. And she wrote me such a beautiful email telling me what a treasure that was to her. And I thought to myself, I didn't really say much to her, but it was Baba's presence that she was picking up on. I think that's the key. The goal is already achieved. Now, what are we going to do?
Yeah. No, that was very much Darwin's attitude. You know, it takes audacity to make such an assertion, you know, and that audacity is part of what we have to overcome is the hesitancy or the modesty. And yeah, beautiful.
Very. And Elizabeth.
So how can we allow him to be closer to us? It just came back to me, the things that you've been saying, Jeff, that we have to empty ourselves out, which is really like learning not to identify with our lower selves, giving up that, voiding all of that, so that we make room in our hearts for Baba. So I guess if you have the goal, and if you're focused on that, and you are giving up identification with the lower self, emptying yourself so that you have an emptiness in the heart that can be filled up with the one reality, then we step toward the truth.
Yeah, so that Baba can move in, move you out, and he moves in. That's the best. One of Kitty's favorite phrases in the Bible was, "Not I, but Christ liveth in me." Yeah.
When in my life as Rosalie, I lived in Los Angeles, I was caused to have an accident, an automobile accident, by a very drunk driver, which was not me, it was the other party. And I was sitting on the curb after the accident, and he was sitting next to me, and he was so drunk, and he went, "Are you all right?" And then his body proceeded to lean like a very not so quickly falling tree. So I had to help him back to his upright position. Anyway, I wrote Tamara about the accident. And I said, I felt Baba at the accident. And she says, of course you felt Baba. You remembered him. And that she was the right person. Mara knew how to remember Baba, and to bring him present. So that was her cue for me.
Yeah.
From then on, I thought, okay, just remember, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, beautiful.
Jai Baba. So Jeff, you asked, what is the resistance to Baba? And I think it's unconscious, right? It's my sanskaras. It's getting involved in other things and forgetting to check back in with Baba. And there's times when I feel like I have repeated his name a lot, but it's been more in India. And so what I've been doing lately is, I have one friend I call where we pray together. She's a Christian. So I don't say Baba, I say Christ, but I know who I'm talking about. And I also am a Christian. Lately I've been calling someone every now and then where I say, my commitment today is to check in as often as possible to say, what's my next, for mom, what's my next right action? I say to God, so to Baba, what's my next right action? And I it's like I'm needing an accountability buddy to do this because I'll just, you know, I actually get on my knees in the morning. So I get on my knees in my morning and I ask Baba for the things that I need in terms of my recovery from addictions. And then I give Baba my life. And then I talk to a Baba lover most days. And then I try to remember, Baba, what would you have me do next? Baba, what would you have me do next? But sometimes I just forget. So I'm trying to get this in my mind that every half an hour, every hour, I'll check in and say, what would you have me do next? And I know for sure, even today, because I talked to that woman today, that I was thinking, oh, I'll do blah, blah, blah. And I asked Baba and it was completely different. And it was an unselfish act is what Baba wanted me to do, to help somebody else, rather than, you know, and when it wasn't like a big difference, you know, I wasn't going to do anything weird, but I changed my activity. And so it's, for me, I'm having to work or commit or get support to keep remembering Baba through my day and set that intention. Because otherwise I think my mind and what I think I should be doing, and which is, it's self-will. I think it's not self-will, but it is self-will if I'm not asking Baba, you know, what would you have me do? Or, and I always love it when I hear people, you know, Theus comes to mind. You know, I'd pass him in the center and he'd be like, thank you, Baba. Thank you, Baba. Thank you, Baba.
Thank you, Baba.
Exactly.
Thank you, Baba.
Exactly. I mean, that stuff makes me so happy. That's it. Thanks.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, I just want to say about this meeting, I mean, we've been from the Daily Word to watching these wonderful shows, and I'm and from the Nazarene, you know. But I wanted to say a word about depression, and that is, you know, Baba went through that period of depression. Now I'm trying to remember where I read that, but am I correct, Jeff? He went through a
No.
period at the end of his life of some depression. So he was taking on this is my interpretation. He was taking on some depression sanskaras that are here. And it also makes me think there is nothing shameful about being depressed. It's sad. It's hard. It's grueling. It's miserable. I mean, I have a family member who just has been through a year and a half and still is of intense depression. And there's a lot of helplessness for me and for others. But there's nothing shameful. I mean, and it's really something that, just like anything else. I mean, didn't Baba say mental pain is much harder than physical pain?
Yeah.
And emotional pain, that the hardest is mental pain. And so it's something that I feel like, whether it's for each other or for ourselves, that deserves a huge heaping dish of compassion. That it's and because of the helplessness you feel, I think, when you're depressed. And maybe that's, like everybody's saying, maybe that's like the icing on the cake. You feel so dang helpless. And nothing you can, you know, you can try, and in just even thinking about trying, you're depressed. When you're really depressed, I mean, it's hard. And so I just think that Baba's taking it on himself, that Narina took it on in a big way, as I understand it from what some people have said, that it's something that Baba's just loves us, even when we're depressed. That thing that Meher Prasad said, you know, I don't love you in spite of who you are. I love you because of who you are. And if who you are is depressed, then that doesn't change how Baba loves us. And I mean, there's lots of ways that we can try to work with it. And I mean, praise Baba for all of those, but that's it. Thank you. Sorry for going on.
No, beautifully said, Janet. Yeah.
Yeah, first thing, Janet, is that I didn't say that. It was Charles Haynes who said that Baba loves us not in spite of who we are, but because of who we are.
Yeah.
So I wanted to correct that.
And that may have come from Elizabeth, perhaps, too, I think. But yeah, go ahead.
To the question, Jeff, that what is not allowing us to have Baba's constant companionship? It's just the desires that I'm running after, my own selfish desires. That's what is really stopping me from having his constant companionship. Just the desire and the longing to have his companionship will allow that companionship to happen. That's my view.
Yeah. That the longing is what brings him there, and the distractions are kind of postpone that intimacy, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. No, it is so true, all this. Let's hear from Stu, because he's probably got to see the Super Bowl game at some point,
Just about the depression issue, and Jeff, you can check me on this. I believe that Baba not only had the bout with depression, but that he took medication. It might have been homeopathic, but he was given some kind of treatment. And when I heard that, and that he had the bout with depression, and then it was actually being with a young boy that snapped the depression. But when I heard that, I felt that Baba kind of took this on for us, for humanity, and put a stamp of his blessing and approval on the struggles with depression.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could have been a month or something. They tried everything to get Baba out of this state. Tried to take him for drives. They tried to massage him, anything. And he was just immovable in this state. I wish I had actually, Marwan Jesawal is the one who said this, and I didn't get the length of time, but I had a feeling that it went on for more than some weeks. And he experienced what a great many people on earth experience regularly.
Jeff, do you remember what year that was that Baba was depressed?
I think it was toward the end. I think it was in the 60s at some point at Marizad. Yeah, but I should have pursued that more thoroughly.
And what brought him out?
I don't know. He came out of it. What do you think, Stu?
Yeah, he had an interaction with a young boy. Remember that? And that snapped him out of it.
Yeah, that's right. But no, he is really shared in our experience.
What snapped him out, Stu?
He had some kind of interaction with a young boy at Marizad or Marabad, and it lifted him. It just lifted him and snapped it. But like Jeff was saying, it was a prolonged time, and he showed all the characteristics. He didn't take interest in anything. He was just kind of, slumping around as the avatar slumping. But it went on for quite a while. But it was like an archetype of being depressed.
Yeah.
What year was that? Do they know what year it was?
It was in the 60s at some point, but I wish I had nailed it down more specifically.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's 1961, Jeff.
Oh, yeah? Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's in Lord Mayor, and the Mandali were bereft because Baba was not reacting to them like he normally would react. He wasn't he wasn't enlivened or anything, and it really hit the Mandalay heart. They didn't know what to do, and they couldn't bring him out of it.
How long did it last for?
It lasted a long time. I'm talking maybe months.
Yeah, I had
Maybe
a feeling.
maybe at least 6 months, maybe longer. It was a real ordeal.
He was just hanging out like depressed and stuff, huh?
He just wasn't he wasn't reacting.
Unresponsive.
Unresponsive, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I just say something about when I remember when I was very depressed, all the things that were supposed to help, you know, that even being outside, hanging around by trees, by water and all that, I didn't want to do any of those things. I didn't want help. It's just, I just wanted it to end. I was in physical pain just from being so angry and sad and depressed. And, you know, you want to help people, but you can't do it. I mean, you have to go through it or something. But I think that people on the outside of that have no idea and they want to help, but I don't know. I just feel like it's important to remember in a sense or say or put it out there that when I was really that depressed, I didn't want any help. And if anybody tried to help me, it was like too little, too late. Get the hell out of here. Leave me alone. It's a horrible place to be. That's all I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Baba directly, as Laura may hear, directly addresses someone who's telling him that they're depressed. I seem to remember Baba saying, well, what about this depression? Do you know where it came from? And they said no. And Baba said, well, don't worry about it. It'll go away. It'll go its own way. It's almost like he was telling the person to be detached from their depression because it was going to go. He didn't seem to take it too seriously.
Yeah.
And that you could probably, you know, go on lordmayhair.org and just type in depression or something and maybe come up with that quote or things that might be said.
Yeah.
Does anyone know why he went into a depression?
No, they didn't. I didn't get the impression that there was anything that precipitated it in his immediate life.
But you said he was unresponsive. What does that mean? Like he just sat there, or?
Yeah, he was just sat there. I mean, the impression I got from Merwan was he just sat like this. Baba, you want to go for a ride? Baba, you do, you know, and he just.
You know, maybe he left. Maybe he went traveling through the unit, went on vacation.
Well, no,
poor guy. I mean, he took time off. He was on another plane.
I think he was doing it for everybody.
No, I think the impression I got, he was truly depressed.
Oh, okay.
Present with the depression. He wasn't like doing some work on other planes of consciousness. He was down on the street level, depressed. Yeah.
Yeah, that must have been work for everybody.
Yeah, I think because it's meant a lot to people. I mean, it wasn't even homeopathic. They tried antidepressants. I mean, they kind of guarded that. I mean, imagine God on antidepressants. I mean, whoa. I mean, but they tried, nothing worked.
That would be a good title for a Baba book. Baba.
But it meant a lot. I mean, when I've kind of privately told people that who are on antidepressants and struggling with depression, they were actually heartened that Baba had that had happened to him. You know,
wow.
That they're not alienated from Baba because they've got something that he didn't have. He had that too.
It's too bad they don't have more information so somebody could write a book or something on Baba and depression. That would be a very interesting book to include that information for people.
Hey, let's have a few moments of silence, and then I know there's some people that might want to watch this game. I may watch some of it, we'll see. But anyway, let's have a few moments of silence. Jai Baba.
Jay Baba. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. You really
Thank you, Baba.
brought all this, you know, this
Thank
is
you,
all
Jeff.
help. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank yourselves. Thank Baba.
Love you all.
Hey, Baba.
Love you too.
Good
Yeah.
night, all.
Everyone have a lovely week.
Love you
See
all.
you.
Go out for a
Love you,
pass.
Everybody.
You're all
Yeah.
like family.
Yes, indeed. What a family.
Bye, Ruthie.
Love you, Lisa.
Love you too. Everyone have a wonderful week.
Baba, Ken and Betty, and
Thanks, Lisa. You too.
Bye for now.
Good night, John Boy.
Rosalie, Lisa, wonderful to see you.
I'm
Julie.
going out for a pass.
Thank you.
Yeah.
doing it.
Hey, Baba.
Jay Baba.
Yeah.
Sure.
You wanna,
Thank you.
you know, someone described somebody as one 1 yard short of a first down. You know, there he was one yard short of a first down. Didn't quite have it all together. Anyway, much love, everybody. Jay Baba.